Okay, welcome back in. DJ's on assignment. He'll be back tomorrow. We had him on. Big news coming out of Utah's camp. They decided to go with the freshman. First-year freshman did have spring ball. Isaac Wilson as the backup to Cam Rising, thinking that maybe that gives him a leg up. Now, somebody who's worked with him and knows quarterbacks in and out is Riley Jensen. Jake Scott sitting in. Riley, good morning. What did you think when you heard that announcement?
I thought it was apropos, right? Like I thought that was about what I thought was going to happen.
You did? You thought it was going to happen. And by the way, neither of us speak French.
On our show.
We don't speak French, so don't give me the apropos stuff. Speak regular English here. Don't get all fancy. You thought it was going to happen.
I did think it was going to happen. I talked about it.
I'm not denying that you said that. I'm not denying that.
You're so disagreeable. I don't know what to do with you.
I didn't think that it was going to happen. You did. So you're not surprised. I'm at least mildly surprised.
Here's why I'm not surprised. The reason why I'm not surprised, number one, Isaac was a phenomenal quarterback at Corner Canyon High School, and all of the quarterbacks thus far that have played at Corner Canyon, it feels like have gone on to play well at the next level when they've gotten their chance. So there's a pretty good opportunity for a player that plays for Eric Kerr in that high school program to have that translate to the next level. But when you go into a quarterback competition, and this is why you have to be careful when you're getting older in your career in football, and you need to win one of those competitions early in your career, is because the underclassman always has the advantage because they're projecting that if it's even, then the younger guy is the guy that you go with. So really, all Isaac had to do, and I don't take that phrase lightly, but all he had to do was play even with the other quarterbacks to win the competition, where the other two quarterbacks had to be significantly better than the others in order to win the competition. Because you're projecting into the future, you're projecting into what he can be, not what he is. And if it's even, then he's going to get the nod. Now, he has the size, he has the arm strength, he has the athletic ability. There's been plenty of highlights of Isaac Wilson making great throws and great decisions. He comes from a family that, the one thing that I have to compliment Mike Wilson on and Isaac and Zach is they're football junkies. They love the sport. They love the game. There's no question that Isaac was in the film room. There's no question that in spring ball he was sucking in and soaking in as much information as he could from Cam Rising, from the coaches and the coaching staff and Coach Ludwig. And so to me, it's not a surprise from the standpoint of you don't have to do as much when you're young. And I'm not taking away from him winning the second spot. You don't have to do as much to win the second position.
Mechanically, Riley, what does he do right?
Well, mechanically, there's not a lot that he does wrong. If I were to be critical of him, it's when he gets a little bit lazy with his feet that he gets into throwing errors, meaning his feet are facing one way and he's throwing the other. But for the most part, I mean, this is a guy that has really, really solid mechanics. He's a very, very athletic player, and I don't think he's quite as athletic as Zach, but I think in some ways his arm strength is better. I don't know if his accuracy is where Zach's was as a freshman in college, but he's pretty dang close. And so there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to be excited about with Isaac Wilson in the second-string quarterback position. The other thing that I thought was a telltale sign was you have Heward that was coming in really, really late into the game because he's coming in after spring ball. And really with Rose, I think if we were reading the tea leaves, the fact that he didn't play in the bowl game last year and that they didn't play him and that they didn't give him an opportunity to step up and play in that bowl game was a big indicator about how they feel about whether he could be a future starting quarterback at the University of Utah.
Riley Jensen joining us, quarterback extraordinaire and mental health coach. So you definitely think this says more about Wilson rather than a slight to the others, or is it a combo?
What do you mean by slight?
Well, they're not good enough. So Isaac didn't necessarily needed to wow. He just needed to be okay because the others aren't good enough. I don't know. I'm asking. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah. So I think it's more of a slight. I think it's more of a slight to Rose. I think that you and DJ and that you and Jacob brought up some good points about Howard. I mean, what sort of decision do you make now? I mean, it's really only that you lost the second string position. Now, the hard part about now that this decision has been made is the third and the fourth string quarterback get hardly any reps during team. The only other quarterback that gets reps during team, and it's about 20% of the reps, is the second string quarterback, and that's where Isaac now gets to develop himself, and he gets to step in as a leader. He gets looked at a little bit differently by teammates, and he gets to grow into that leadership position as maybe the incumbent. But as you and DJ pointed out earlier in the hour, it's hard to just say that without an exception to the rule, because football is so different now with NIL and with free transfers and with money that is going out and around everywhere. I don't know that it's just a straight line for Isaac like it used to be, but it's certainly a big step in the right direction for him, and it's certainly grounds for celebration in the Wilson home, because you're doing the things that you're being asked to do. Nobody was asking him to come in and beat out Cam Rising. They were asking him to come in and compete for that second string job. And as of right now, and it always changes in college football, but right now he's the second string quarterback, and that's a big start for him.
How much do you think the probability of a quarterback transferring plays into decisions on depth charts?
More than it ever has. Less at the University of Utah, in my opinion, because I don't think Kyle likes quarterbacks anyway. I mean, and I don't mean that he hates them, but he tolerates them. I don't know how to explain it. Other than Cam Rising, I've never seen him really embrace a quarterback like he's the stuff weekends are made of. I do think that he really likes Cam Rising, but I think in general he doesn't love quarterbacks. He doesn't care about whether they transfer or not.
He does not.
He was winning 10 games a year long before any good quarterbacks came into the program.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. That's not how he's built his program. He hasn't built his program on quarterbacks.
Riley Jensen joining us. What is the deal with all these Elite 11 quarterbacks who are awesome in high school, credible stats, all that, but just don't pan out and then have multiple transfers in college? Because it seems like it may not be the norm, but it certainly isn't unusual.
Well, I heard you and Jake talking about it. I looked it up a long time ago. I went through every single quarterback, and I divided it into quarterbacks that start in the NFL, quarterbacks that you've heard of, and quarterbacks that you've never heard of. And it was about 50% that you've never heard of.
Yeah. So
the quarterbacks that started in college and started in the pros, it was a little bit less than 50%. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot when it comes to Elite 11, but I think it goes back a little bit to the mindset of being rewarded too early. I mean, and this may be my background causing a little bit of bias on this, but there's significant evidence that shows that if someone is willing to pass up good for great, they seem to be more successful and more happy in this life. And there's a whole marshmallow experiment with kids where they're like, hey, there's one marshmallow sitting in front of you, but if you wait, you'll get two of them. And the kids that actually wait and are willing to kind of be able to see into the future that there could be something better, they're the ones that test out better in life and those sorts of things. And so I'm telling a long story to get to the point of quarterbacks that are given too much early, I think are less motivated when they get to the next level. And the best example I can give is that with the exception of John Elway and the Manning brothers, okay, those would be the exceptions to the rule. Most quarterbacks that are really, really good in college and end up being really good in the pros aren't at their dream school. You look at Drew Brees, like, do you think his dream school was Purdue, right?
No, a kid from Texas, probably not.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers grew up in Alabama. You think his dream school was North Carolina State? And I can go down the list of all these guys that continually had the carrot dangled in front of them, and so they continue to grow and progress. And I can even make an argument in other positions, like first-team All-Americans in college. Like, it takes them a minute to find their way in the NFL. And so I think there's something to the fact that you have that chip on your shoulder. You feel like you're never recognized for how good you are, and you continue to grow and progress. And I think that's why some Elite 11 quarterbacks, they can't handle it. Not to pile on Jake Heaps, but that was a guy who played at Skyline High School in Washington. He had 4 Division I wide receivers. I watched him play 7-on-7 when he was in high school. He was never on a team that had bad players around him, and everything was snowplowed and everything was arranged for him to play really, really good football no matter where he was. And his first experience with adversity was when he got to BYU, and I feel like it broke him a little bit because he never had to experience some of those difficulties. Everybody that was around him, whether he went to an Elite 11 camp or whether he went to the Under Armour, like All-Stars, whatever it was, there was always great people around him. And when he got to BYU and he had to fight on his own merit for a minute, it didn't help him, and he ended up – he was one of those guys that transferred to 3 different schools before all these rules happened.
Yeah.
And so I think a healthy dose of adversity and a healthy dose of some sort of experience that builds moxie for a quarterback in high school is really helpful to the next level. And so to get there, it's difficult, and it's difficult to maintain a high level of play at that position.
So you speak of first-team All-Americans needing a little bit of time. How about first-team All-Whackers?
The joke that never dies, right? The joke that never dies. Listen, both of you guys sitting in that room right now, you guys both have some quotes that we can't even replay on the radio.
Agree.
Otherwise,
we shouldn't even talk about
it. They'd be number one. They'd be number one.
I'm just amazed that we still have
a first-team All-Whacker.
That drop. Do you know how old that drop is?
Dude, it's made it through 3 different radio groups. It was... I don't want to get into which radio groups, but it's gone from one to another, and this is now the 3rd, and it's at least, I think it's 20 years old. When did Kobe Carl play? Because I was talking about Kobe Carl.
Is Kobe Carl still alive?
I don't know. I think him and his dad have had cancer, and they're doing well, but...
He's a first-team All-Whacker.
That was back in our taco maker Jake's Over the Top days, Riley.
It was.
Yeah, buddy. It was good times.
Exactly right. That's
good
exactly
times.
Right.
Who are you referring to again?
Kobe Carl.
Kobe Carl.
He was a first-teamer.
He's a first-team All-Whacker.
Yeah,
so it says he earned first-team All-WAC honors in 2007. So we're talking 17 years ago, guys.
Yeah, that's a long time.
17 years ago, and this joke is still alive. Wow.
The best ones always survive, I guess.
They're classics,
no.
yes.
The best ones have to die, or else we'd all get in trouble on the airwaves.
What's the Eagles' most famous tune? Hotel California. What's Riley Jensen's most famous line?
He's a first-team All-Whacker.
Yeah, you don't live. You don't see the other ones you're referring to aren't that good because we can't play them. That one we can.
It was so innocent and so pure when it came out, and now it just feels like I'm a terrible person. So.
You know that these guys used to call Riley the Aggie under the bleachers? What was that all about?
I think that was DJ.
That's how I got my start. I actually remember talking to DJ and saying, well, just, put me on. I'll talk about the Aggies for a 20-minute segment. You can call me the redheaded stepchild because that's how we're treated up at Utah State, And then he changed it. He changed it to Aggie under the bleacher.
Yeah, that was DJ's term.
I remember.
It was.
So do you think, it's just a guess, and won't hold you to it, but do you think this time next year, Isaac Wilson is QB1 for the Utes?
I do, but it will be after like a really, really deep competition into the fall. So yes, and like you and DJ were talking about, there's so many things that can happen between now and then. I still think he'll be in the mix regardless of what happens.
Oh, certainly in the mix, but I'm talking about does this give him a significant leg up that once this 24 season ends, that he then becomes installed when we go into spring ball next March, he's the guy.
I'm predicting that by next year at this time, he will be the starter.
Okay, there it is. All right.
I mean, look, I already nailed number 2. I already nailed that he was going to be number 2. You should listen to me.
I am. You first team all whacker. You get
hard.
so defensive every time I
don't
speak.
understand why this is so hard for you to understand. I'm a big deal. I keep telling you I'm a big deal.
I know you are. I had my doubts because I got other folks in my ear saying his arm isn't big enough. He's too small. And that's what they've told me. It's not necessarily my opinion. I don't know.
You're a lot like my wife, right? You trust me, but you verify.
Well, I got information from other folks saying different things. And, the Utes were under pressure to recruit him. A local guy. You don't want to get another local guy get away. And maybe those folks were wrong. It wasn't my opinion. It's what people were telling me. But you're telling me something that is basically the opposite and is getting me excited for the kid.
I'll tell you this. There's a lot of growth that takes place in college football. The one problem that I had with Isaac when he was in high school is I felt like there was 1 to 2 throws a game that were head scratchers that could have or should have been picked off. And when teams were able to pick him off, they were able to beat him. But a lot of guys in high school weren't able to convert that. So he's going to have to fix that at this level. And it sounds like he's doing a pretty good job of that at the University of Utah.
And some of his detractors also said he was a year older than everybody else in high school. And they wondered how that eventually that washes out in college.
Yeah, okay. He's a good football player. Okay,
there it is. All right, hey. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We will be talking to you regularly throughout the season.
Can't wait. Talk to you soon.
See you, Riley.
That's Riley Jensen. He knows his stuff. Next year, they've already got their starting quarterback for the next 3 years on their roster. That's awesome. Guys like Jake Scott are fired up, and we will get to that next as to the reasons why. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.